Nine ball is rotation pool. The balls are pocketed in numbered order. The only ball that means anything, that wins it, is the nine. Now the player can shoot eight trick shots in a row, blow the nine, and lose. On the other hand, the player can get the nine in on the break. If the ball's spread right and win, which is to say, that luck plays a part in nine ball. But for some players, luck itself is an art. Welcome to the Hey Guys podcast. I'm Rob Liam, and this week we watched the continuing adventures of Fast Eddie Felson in The Color of Money, starring Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, and directed by Martin Scorsese. Now, this is the iPhone SE of Scorsese films, directed by him, sure, but that's it. And Scorsese himself said he took it on to prove he could do a film under budget and under the time frame. He himself was merely a passenger on this project. But whatever happened behind the scenes, this is Newman's film from start to finish. The story of the old grifter getting the limelight back for one more go is nothing new. It's one of the oldest tropes. But Newman is brilliant in this. The shots of the pool halls make you smell the smoke and sweat that came with places like this. And yes, even Tom Cruise is good. His unlikability is at fever pitch here, but it's Tom being Tom, which I don't mind. He isn't trying to be anything other than a smarmy jackass, and he pulls it off with... the laugh and karate moves can get a tad much. But hey, I'll take Tom Cruise laugh over a Pee Wee Herman laugh any day. Now, so this film, was this film as good as I remember? Well, no. I do remember it being much more entertaining. But as a tale of passing the torch to the younger generation and again proving just how good an actor Newman is, I mean, this film is on point.
Yeah, I agree with nearly everything there. I especially with the Tom Cruise thing. Like Tom Cruise, it's easy to forget now because everything he does is self-conscious because everything is geared towards this idea of him selling himself as like the ultimate megastar. And it all goes back to that fucking couch jump. Ever since then, he's been like, all right, I can't be that dude anymore. I'm just going to be the megastar guy. And that is literally his character. That is like who he, like, you know, we don't know anything else about him anymore. He's just like, I'm just superstar, megastar Tom Cruise. Fair enough. And it's easy to forget that not only early in his career was he making really interesting choices, but he's fantastic at playing a bellend. Like he really is. Like, and like you said in this, he's a dick, but it's a really unself-conscious performance. And as I said, that like totally self-conscious nowadays. Back then, it's just like, going back to this, I kind of assumed mentally this was going to be like a passing of the torch movie, but it's like you said, it's like, no, there's no passing of the torch here. This is everyone, remember, Paul Newman is the fucking man. And it actually like maybe takes you like 90 minutes. You almost get kind of tricked by the fact that on the poster it's Newman and Cruise. And then it's like 90 minutes in, you're like, no, this isn't like a two-hander. This is Newman's movie. And Tom Cruise is 100% playing the supporting role. But he does so with aplomb. Like, he doesn't try to look cool. If anything, like, he goes too far the other way. For the most part, I'm just like, oh, he's supposed to be a smarmy dick. He is. When he's doing the karate moves, I'm like, oh, is he supposed to be this cringy? I'm like, kind of, maybe. I think he is. They refer to him in one line as you're a flake, which is an incredible burn on someone. And he says, no, that's a good thing for what we're trying to do. But he is a fucking flake. But yeah, it comes back to the star of the show, you know, Scorsese's direction. We can talk about that in a moment. But the thing that stands head and shoulders above this whole movie is Newman and him coming back to that character, Fast Eddie, or just Eddie as he's known in this.
Well, that's it. I would say though, right? I mean, you could say it's like putting on a pair of old shoes, but I don't think it is because Paul Newman as Eddie in this is not Eddie from The Hustler. Two different characters. He's been beat down. He said it before. I did something. Somebody took me out of the game, and for 25 years I haven't gone back into it. And now it's just the older guy just trying to find his way again. He's met somebody that's bringing him in. Back to something he loved, but he has to come into it from a different angle. It's not I can be the guy that cons you anymore. I've got to be the guy that teaches you how to con.
And you can say, well, everything is a hustle, and so it's weird like watching this one because I'd never seen The Hustler, and I actually went back and watched it. Albeit I had to watch it kind of in the background when I was working because I didn't have enough time to watch both of the movies.
What did you think?
One, I think The Hustler is an amazing film.
It's great, isn't it?
It's a fantastic film, and it is a completely different performance, but that lends itself beautifully to this movie. Like, you know, if you come into this, you don't have to have seen The Hustler at all. you get enough from it. What he tells you, his demeanor. It's just like, well, something rough has happened, and he's trying to kind of refine that spark in himself. And part of that is his relationship with Tom Cruise in the film. But of course, if you have seen The Hustler and you see what happens, particularly towards the end, and you get an idea as to why he couldn't go back to Paul Halls anymore, because that was, the end of the film is a total bummer, and that was. It's one of those odd films if you go back and watch The Hustler. It really is straddling kind of old and new Hollywood. So
Yeah.
one for what it's like, if you watch the film from 25 years ago from today, you're watching what, Lord of the Rings? Hardly a difference. If you go back to 1961 from 1986, the 25 years between those movies, for one, it's black and white. But more importantly, it's not just the black and white nature, it still has that stagey nature that cinema had before New Hollywood came in the end of the 60s. But tonally, what it's going for feels much more modern, and especially towards the ending of the film, where it really is about loss, dealing with these issues, and there's no kind of like great denouement where everybody's happy towards the end of the film. It's like you get to the end, it's just like Fast Eddie's not in a great place at all, and his girlfriend's committed suicide. It's rough, and that if you do watch it, it does add gravitas to this film, but also you could just watch it in
I mean,
itself.
I watched this film before I watched The
Yeah, me
Hustler.
too.
I
Me
didn't
too.
need to go back or anything like that.
No,
But I mean, it's good to revisit. If you've got a
and you
chance,
should, yeah,
revisit that.
because
Yeah, you should.
The
Going
Hustler,
back,
like you said, sorry, just very quickly,
that's
because you
right.
said it in your intro, about the fact that this film isn't quite as good as you remember. This is a really good film. It's not as good as The Hustler. The Hustler
No.
is an exceptional film. That was
Oh,
the
yeah.
great thing about revisiting
The
this film,
Hustler,
was going back and
the,
rewatching
the
The Hustler.
Hustler is exceptionally made. And
Mhm.
he said this film is passable. This film is good. It's a great watch,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not a Scorsese film because, as I've said already, Scorsese just took this as a project, as a favor.
Mhm.
So it's not like, oh, this is a passion project for him, like all his other films have been, and things like that. So this was just like, oh, let Newman do what Newman needs to do, and Newman does it perfectly. There's two things I wanted to bring up about the characters.
Mhm.
The first one being Vince himself.
Mhm.
I'm sure he would have got fucked up like 7 times over in this film. From the start, when he's messing around with Julian, played by fucking John Turturro, who I can't watch anymore without thinking pederasts, dude, pederasts.
Oh, dude, of course. Yeah, I always think of
Yeah.
Jesus, 100%.
Uh, and then so I would have got fucked up. But I was looking at not looking, sorry, I was watching a film, and the introduction to Eddie in this, he sat at the bar and he's just talking about whiskey, and it's like
Mhm.
you put this whiskey and you put it in something else. He's like, what does he say? Color. Check the color. Dead giveaway, it's thick. You can almost feel it. Lay down and just let it roll over you. That's single malt. On the other hand, you got something like Old McDonald, more like Young McDonald. Actually tastes like a 6-year-old bonded. Smell this. Means nothing. And unless you think about what he's trying to do, he's trying to sell. You can put this cheap booze that I'm selling you
Mhm, mhm,
and put
mhm.
it into any bottle and sell it as that bottle. Fine. But what I wanted to ask was, and I've never understood this, is he trying to sell Janelle, who he's fucking, by the way?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is he trying to sell Janelle whiskey
Mhm.
in his own place? Because does
That's
he
what
own
it
the
comes
pool
across
hall?
as.
Because he's trying to sell her whiskey. So I'm wondering, has he bought it
I
cheap?
don't think I don't think he owns the bar.
But he's got an office in the back. I'll be in my
Oh, of
office.
course, yeah, yeah. Does he work there? Does he own it? It's all. I guess what they're going for there is trying to say on this idea that, and the brilliance of Newman in this situation, in that scene in particular, is that he's slimy. He's clearly utterly untrustworthy, but he's at the same time utterly charming. You can
Yeah,
see why it's like, well, I wouldn't want to buy anything from him, but I do want to fuck him. The whole Janelle situation, rather than myself. I'm watching
yeah.
him and I'm just thinking, man, I hope I age like fucking, Paul Newman
Oh,
did. Like
what a
he,
fine wine. Yeah,
like a fine. The only thing that's interesting actually is the fact that he is younger in this than Tom Cruise is now. And even though he looks magnificent, the difference is he actually looks like a 60-something-year-old. Like you,
yeah,
you can't imagine him hanging off the side of a fucking plane. You're just like, no, no, don't put that old man on the side of a plane. He will die for sure.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
he just looks great. Like the suit, obviously it helps that he's handsome as fuck. The white Cadillac is absolutely fantastic. And all the way through, you're just like, I mean, he sits somewhere between sleazeball and smooth as fuck. And he
You
pulls off both.
you mentioned the Cadillac and the suit, and he says a line that is beautiful in this. It's like, look, I can always go back to booze. Booze was good for me. Booze got me the car, it got me the suit. Like he's got a backup plan that he could fall on, but for some reason he just sees his shot at well, I want to say greatness, but like the pool competitions as well just feel like you're watching the dodgeball championships, doesn't it? It's got to
Yeah, a
be
little
a
bit.
unique blend of people that go and watch the
Hmm.
9 ball pool. Like it's a big thing. The Moscone Cup is a
Hmm.
big thing now in Europe and everything. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
just I love a random sports film. Like there's a film,
Mhm.
right, and I'm totally going off track now. Do you
Well, yeah,
remember
it is.
G?
No, sorry, it is. It is almost like easy to forget, despite the fact that this, like you read the intro and you read it beautifully, by the way, almost erotically, I might add. But and it has the cigarette and all that. I love all that stuff. But because it's so much about their relationship, sometimes you can almost forget that at its core, it's still a sports movie
Yeah, yeah.
because it doesn't take. And I think what kind of shifts your focus is the fact that, and it's one of the movie's strengths and its weaknesses, is the fact that narratively it doesn't follow your kind of traditional path. It's like you said, for most of the film, you think, oh, this is like I said, a passing of the torch where he's trying to teach this kid skills to benefit him as well. But then you realize, like you said, and it's almost because you note it, you realize the same time that Eddie does that this isn't really what this is about. This is about him refinding that spark. It's I was trying to figure out, was it actually the moment when Vincent is playing? Is it Grady? Is that his name? The other pool,
Yeah,
and
Grady. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he says, "Oh, you're supposed to chuck this game," and he just almost refuses, and you can see it like in his eyes, just like, "I'm not fucking throwing this. I'm going to beat this guy." And I was wondering if that was the
What
moment when he saw that, and he was just like, "Fuck, man, I want a bit more of that in
what
my
is
life.
it?
I want to just be this hustling guy."
What is it they say? Dump, isn't it? You got to dump this, and all through the film,
Dump, yeah, yeah,
he's
dump,
not
yeah,
dumb. So
yeah. Hmm.
it's Chekhov's dump as well, isn't it? You all like he's done it
Oh,
twice. He
of
won't dump the
course.
game. So at some point, you know
Hmm.
it's coming, and yeah, obviously it came again. As soon as you see them play each other, you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He's bet on himself. Like that. That's obvious throughout. Uh, Going back because I was on about this being a random sports film. I
Yeah,
love
sorry.
a.
Yeah,
That's okay. I love a random sports film, and the randomer, if I can use that as a word or an
yeah, go
adjective,
for it, go for it. I guess.
the better. I want
Mhm.
to just because I want to get this on recording. There's a film starring Paul Gross who was in Due South and
Mhm.
Leslie Nielsen, Men with Brooms. It was about curling.
Oh, Jesus Christ,
There's
that is a deep
actual
cut. I,
yeah.
I was immediately thinking of there's one about British bulls, isn't there?
Black Ball with
Black
Paul
ball, yeah, yeah.
and Vince Paul McGann is it and Vince
Mhm.
fucking Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn,
But
yeah.
no, fucking this is worse, mate. Not worse. It's great. I think it's a great film. But Men with Brooms is just a random sports. I've always loved a
Unbelievable.
random sports film. I don't know why. Like I said,
I
the more
love
random,
sports
the better.
films. I mean, I'm a big fan, as you know, of like American sports films. And
Yeah.
just when you were talking about that, I just immediately I realized I've only watched Slapshot. It is Slapshot with Paul Newman, isn't
Yes,
it?
Slapshot. Yeah.
I've watched that once, and I watched it. Oh God, it was in university, and I don't like to do the maths about how long ago that was. Needless to say, it was a long fucking time ago.
I'm
That's
going
not,
to
of course, an
assume.
obscure sports film, but I was just like, man, I really need to rewatch Slapshot. But that's one for the podcast, I think.
I'm going to assume you've only you said you've seen Slapshot once. I'm going to assume you've only ever seen Slapshot. You haven't seen Slapshot 2 or 3.
I have not. I am aware of them, but I've not seen them.
Yeah,
No.
I
I
have.
assume you've seen the lot, of course.
I, I have.
Yeah, of
Two
course. Yeah, yeah.
had the I want to say the angry Baldwin. They're all fucking angry. Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah, oh yeah, he
Yeah,
comes across
yeah.
as especially angry. I think Stephen
But
Baldwin, in
like
fairness.
all 3 slap shots. Like the third one was like Mighty Ducks ripoff. It was like a PG kids slap
Ah,
shot one.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it still brought back the Hanson brothers.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's the
like
thing
all
though.
3 films.
Usually, if you have like a slapshot series, like you have these like characters who are famous from a movie like them, but they don't have this kind of overarching career attached to it. So they're just like, oh, we're going to be in all the films. I always think of like the fact that you've seen 17 Tremors movies, and the older guy with the mustache, I always forget his name. He's
Bert
in like,
Kilmer.
yeah, he's in all of them, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. Everyone remembers him from the original Tremors, but it's not like, Tremors led to a huge swathes of like starring roles in or even supporting roles in like major movies. So he's just like, all right, this is going to be my shtick. I'm just going to be the fucking Tremors guy, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally cool.
I
But
mean, he came back for the series. He even played his great granddad or whatever in the prequel.
oh, of course. Oh, Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. Well, I'm not, maybe if we get to Slapshot 7, who knows? But you
Oh, fucking
mentioned the
hell.
fact that this is directed by Scorsese, and it's interesting, like watching this. So I know he had, like you say, he hasn't got the most to do with it. Although you he arguably needed this movie because the the 70s auteur cinema at this point is long gone. This is like peak 80s blockbuster excess. And it's like,
Yeah.
how does Scorsese fit into this? And more importantly, how does he get the movies he wants to make made? And even though he had had like previous success with Mean Street, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull and stuff, this was seen as his first mainstream movie. And his success, and you mentioned it earlier, the fact that it came in under budget, under time, all that jazz, that actually allowed him to make his major passion project, which was the The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah.
So it's a weird one because this was like a box office hit. It gave Newman the Oscar he'd been striving for God knows how long. And it got Scorsese the movie he actually wanted to make, which was The Last Temptation of Christ, which I'm not sure if you've seen, but I definitely prefer to watch The Color of Money than The Last Temptation
of Christ. That's the Willem Dafoe one, isn't it?
The Willem Dafoe one, yeah. I would say it's a terrible film. But,
no, it's not a terrible film, but it's also it's a watch.
Anything with religion and Scorsese. Did you watch the one with Jesus Christ, Silence? I'm sure it's called Silence, with Liam Neeson, Adam Driver, about the Portuguese missionaries when they went to Japan.
Andrew Garfield as well.
Yeah, and they went to Japan in like the 13th century. It is one of the grimmest fucking films you will ever. It's good in so much that all Scorsese films have something to recommend. It's beautifully directed, wonderfully acted. It's a fucking slog, man. It is a slog. Again, this might not be pure Scorsese. I don't think anyone's putting this on the top of the Scorsese list. It's not making the Scorsese Mount Rushmore or any of that nonsense. But for all its... I say fault. It doesn't have like major faults. It's not like you watch it and you can pick holes in this film. It's just, like I said, the narrative is somewhat meandering. By the end of it, you're just like, was this all worthwhile? But fundamentally, the reason that you watch it, the reason that it's so good, beyond, Scorsese's unfussy but effective direction, is the threesome at the core of this film. And it's easy to forget Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, because obviously when you think of this film, you think of Newman, you think of Cruise. She totally holds her own against those two in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's being used as some sort of bargaining chip as well, because there's no three-way like love triangle. There's no love triangle in this, thankfully. Like we don't need that. We do not need that
they
at all.
They hint at it very briefly, but it's dealt with wonderfully.
And he cuts the knees out from under that, and like that's not happening. I'm too old. I'm too curmudgeon. I just don't want this shit anymore.
Yeah, don't fuck with me, literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Yeah, which is absolutely great. But she uses it, right? She knows how to get in Vince's head. So she's picking up all the cues that are coming from Newman, from Eddie, and she's like, well, Vince for some reason won't take him off Eddie. So if for lack of a better word, if he wants this pussy again, he's gonna follow on suit. And he does. And to be fair, but what I like about this, there's not much in regards to Vince changing either. Vince is still Vince. He's still a shite bag. He will always be a shite bag. You don't think he's learned anything, even though you get to where Newman to Eddie turns around and said, look, I taught you everything I know. You don't think he has actually taught anything, because when you get to it, you don't think Vince has actually learned anything. They've been on the road for a couple of weeks. You don't think Vince has actually learned anything.
The only thing I'll say, like his character arc, sadly, isn't one of like self-improvement. It's that he is being manipulated. Like he's the one being manipulated by both Carmen and Eddie, fundamentally. And of course, he gets his comeuppance towards the end. Eddie gets his comeuppance when he realizes he's been played by Vincent, where he thinks he's getting his best game, but he hasn't. He's actually and it's interesting because he's doing what Eddie wanted him to do, and that whole shift within Eddie is actually one of my problems with the film, because it happens so abruptly and doesn't feel particularly natural. Like rewatching it. And it all stems from that. I mentioned the fact that there's the pool game between Vincent and the other dude whose name I keep forgetting.
Grady.
And, what's that? Sorry, Grady.
Yeah.
And does that spark something within him? But really, it's the game with Forrest Whitaker, another person who just randomly pops up in this film, and fucking Iggy Pop, by the way. I just totally forgot he was in this
Iggy Pop.
movie.
Oh, and fucking sorry, give him his flowers as well. Bill Cobbs as Orvis, where he recognizes him and he just goes,
This is gonna see, I'm gonna be sidetracked now. All right. He's fantastic in every film he shows up in. He's one of those characters, he usually rolls in, Bill Cobbs, and he just makes a very big impact with a small number of lines. He's just one of those actors. I watched him in this film and I realized, I looked him up and I was like, oh God, he only died like a year or two ago. I was like, wait a minute, how old was he in this film? He was
don't do that.
51 years old. Now, 51 years old, don't get me wrong, that's older than me, but that is 8 years older than me. When I see Bill Cobbs as Orvis in this film, my brain tells me that dude, other than the fact that he's black, so it's unlikely, he could be my grandfather. Not my dad, my grandfather.
Yep.
Now I'm just like, that guy could just be my friend. Like 8 years isn't that much.
No, it's not.
I'm just like, I found that alarming that I was dangerously close to the age of Bill Cobbs as Orvis in this film.
Can I bring something up? It's a Gary Busey meatball sub thing that I was thinking about, right? After, and sorry, you did say, and I cut you off from undo, but when you mentioned Forrest Whitaker, we didn't actually say the name of the character because he was doing what was his name? Forrest Whitaker. Amos. Are you
Amos.
hustling me, Amos?
Was...
Are you hustling me, Amos? Do you want to make your point before I make mine?
Sorry, just to come back to that very quickly. It was just at that point in the film when Whitaker played him, the way he responded, it was the only bit of, dare I say, slight overacting on Newman where I wasn't totally convinced, to the point where even the second time watching this film, I was just like, is he playing Vincent at this point? Because I just didn't buy into the fact that he'd been played and the way he responded to it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you get that great, and I think it's the best bit of kind of two great actors on screen together. It's just those two on the stairwell afterwards.
Yeah.
When they're going at each other, I'm just like, oh yeah, this is just two like elite level actors just really going for it. But that's fundamentally the moment in the film where suddenly he just changes, and all this nonsense he's been feeding to Carmen and he's been feeding to Vincent, he just decides, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I want to do this for the love of the game. Like, he's just like, and then you get, I mentioned the fact that the direction of this film is relatively unfussy. One of the most stylistic moments in this film is when Eddie is getting an eye test for some reason. It's like most of this film, and I think a big part of it is the fact that it's shot on location. So you go to Chicago, you go to Atlantic City, but it's both unfussy and it's unglamorous, I think is maybe the most accurate term. Because they didn't shoot on lots, they went to actual pool halls, and like I think you mentioned earlier, the fact that you can smell the pool halls, you can smell the sweat, the smoke, all that jazz, which is wonderful. But it means most of the film is relatively, there's not like obvious signs that you're watching a Scorsese film. But then suddenly you get to his eye test and it kind of cuts between that and him swimming. And you're like, Jesus Christ, this looks like a 1960s French art house movie all of a sudden. It's just a bizarre shift in tone for that like 20 seconds of all the, you think it was going to be, the pool game at the end. But no, we're going to really push the boat out for fucking eye test. Bizarre.
We'll move on because that's my Gary Busey moment. Right?
Cool. Go for it.
He's in a random city, like it's not where he
it might
lives.
Be Atlantic City by that point. Yeah,
I don't think it is because he says to him, "How much do you need to get to Atlantic City?"
Also, they're on the way. Yeah, of course.
They're on the way, so they're in a random place. It's the place. It's the first. It's the second pool hall they go to because once he gets his glasses, he's in the pool hall with Bill Cobbs again, and he's learning to play pool, and he plays their ringer again, the guy with the cowboy hat.
The guy who's dressed fucking awesomely, by the way, with the cowboy hat and the shirt. Oh, he's just the coolest guy in the film, and that's a film with fucking with Paul Newman in it.
With modern technology now, now 2025, it still takes 2 weeks for me to get my glasses. Once I've had my eye test, okay. How is he getting his glasses, or getting his eye test, and getting his glasses, and relearning the game of pool, and swimming in a random city? Like I appreciate any city. I could go to Edinburgh where you live and have an eye test. Yeah. I get that. But then they're not going to give me glasses straight away. Go, you know what? You're only here now. You're moving to Atlantic City to have a game. You need to learn pool. Let me give you a pair of glasses. That really took me out of it. The time frame.
You can get lucky. So I'll accept the pool. You can find a pool wherever. And the idea of him getting better at pool again, I like the idea that he's always just been good, but because of what happened in the Hustler, he's just not played. And it's, it's like riding a bike. He's like, no, I've got the magic. And it's more of a mindset thing. The eye test thing, there is a world where if you go and get new glasses, if they have the lenses at the optician just by chance, you might get a bit of luck. And I assume as well, because he's just cutting about for the most part, he's not blind like I'm blind. Like he's got short-ish sight. He's not like, knocking into... It's like if I take off my glasses, I walk outside, I'm going to get hit by a car fucking immediately. So I assume he's just got like slightly short sight.
No.
But I know what you mean. Like it's one of those weird things. If you pick up on it it just takes you out the film.
Which
But then you got
opticians?
very upset. What was that in reference to Point Break, wasn't it? And
Point
the
Break's
sandwiching.
meatball sub thing, yeah. Which opticians have you gone to that they've
Mhm.
had the lenses on site where they've turned around to you and gone, "Oh, well done, we've got your exact." No fucking opticians I've ever been to has said we have your lenses on
I
site.
think if your eyesight isn't as bad and it's more just kind of like touching it up, I think it's a much higher chance than, it's kind of like, remember when, I'm not sure if they still do it, but I was talking about it quite recently. Remember pharmacies when you were younger in like the late 80s, early 90s? They
Yeah,
used to sell two things I always remember. They used to sell toys in pharmacies all the time and used to be
yeah,
able to
yeah,
get
yeah,
those tiny pink Japanese wrestling figures, boxes
yeah.
of threes, and Muscle Men, I think they were called. I used to fucking love them, but I completely associate them with pharmacies. And the other one was reading glasses. You didn't have to have an eye test or anything like that. They were just fucking like buying sunglasses. You just pick them off the side and you had reading glasses. I was just like, is everyone who's got long sight got the same level of long sight? I have no fucking idea. But anyway, sorry, I'm fighting an argument which I don't need to. If it takes you out the film,
No,
it totally takes you out the
you
film.
know
Fair
what?
enough.
I gotta call bullshit on something you said. Well, maybe not bullshit. Just call you out on it. You
Mhm.
said after The Color of Money, uh, Scorsese went and did The Last Temptation of Christ.
You got the funding for it at least.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I thought you said that he went in to direct that after.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to call out the fact that he directed Michael Jackson's Bad video in between.
Well, I mean, he's gone full mainstream at this point, hasn't he? There's nothing more straight mainstream than Michael Jackson's Bad Video. And when I was younger, like that was the thing I was watching of Scorsese. I wasn't watching Mean Streets. I wasn't watching fucking Rage. I mean, it's a crime. I still not seen Raging Bull, which is ludicrous, by the way. But
Mm.
how many times did I watch it? I mean, the Bad Video was a big deal, but my God, Thriller was like felt like the biggest deal in the world. Even like because it come out when I was really young, but because we didn't have like MTV and stuff like that. One of my friends had the music video on VHS, and it was like a two-parter. So it was like the first part of the VHS was the full-length Thriller video,
Yeah.
and then it went straight into the Moonwalker movie, the one which
Oh
had
yeah,
Joe
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
Pesci in it,
yeah.
and he turns
Yeah,
into like a
and
giant Michael Jackson mech.
and spiders for some reason. Like Joe Pesci loved the fucking spider.
Love
It
spiders,
was
man. That was a
weird, mate.
weird, but that
Yeah, it
had a
was.
good. Who directed that? I bet you it was someone like fucking Francis Ford Coppola or something bizarre like that.
What was it
Michael
called?
Jackson didn't fuck around. It was. I'm sure it was like the
Moonwalker.
Moonwalker, the movie,
Do you
basically.
know the kids
Because
who?
it led, because if you went all the way through it, it was like him trying to save the kids and all that jazz, and you had the
Yeah.
bit with Joe Pesci, and eventually it ends up in the pool hall to bring it back to this film
Fucking
where he's doing the
Jackson was a
dance and shit.
Jackson became a transformer in that, didn't he? He turned
Yeah,
into the
yeah,
Lamborghini. Yeah.
and it looked amazing. It looked,
Oh
and
mate,
it
we don't know
still
any of
looks
them.
surprisingly good today.
Directors, three directors: Colin Chilvers, Jerry Kramer, and Will Vinton.
Jerry Kramer sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, Jerry Kramer is the dude from fucking Seinfeld, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure I know him from. I wasn't mixing him up with that. Jesus Christ. But anyway, to come back to this film, and we were talking about pool there, and the fact that once they go to the pool halls, the reason like it feels both unfussy and somewhat grounded and realistic is the fact that they shot on location. But the other thing is, Paul Newman and Cruise are clearly fantastic at pool, and Cruise in particular, given his reputation for going out and being like, oh, if I need to do this for a film, like hold my breath for 6 minutes, jump
Yeah.
out of a fucking plane, whatever, he goes and does it. Unsurprisingly, he bought a pool table for this film, played for hours every day to make sure he's up to scratch, and it shows on screen. Like you can see him doing most shots. The only
Every
one
shot. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
except for one. Oh no, you
Yeah.
go for it, buddy.
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to follow on to that. Every shot bar one was done by him. And the only reason Scorsese wouldn't let him do the one shot, and I think I got it in fact, so I'll tell you what shot it was. But the only reason Scorsese wouldn't let him do that shot was due to the fact that it would take too much time, I think. And Scorsese
Yeah, he was like kind of he'll get the shot eventually.
Yeah.
But that was the whole thing with this movie. He wants to do it quickly and under budget. I think they filmed
Yeah.
the whole thing in like 48 days. So we can't wait like 10 days for Tom Cruise to nail this fuck. And it's the jump shot. And it is an unbelievable shot when you see it on
Oh,
screen.
yeah, yeah. That's the
Where he
jump shot, is it?
jumps-
Okay.
Yeah, he does the jump shot. It goes over the other one, hits I think the 8 and then goes into the 9, whatever kind of thing. It's unbelievable. But yeah,
you know
like
what?
it's like, I'm sorry, carry on.
Sorry, we were talking about Tom Cruise then. Do you know what surprises me about Tom Cruise in this?
What's that?
That this was filmed after Top Gun.
Yeah, you would never think it, would you? You
No,
would never
and
think
even
it.
to the point where in Top Gun, when he's in the elevator,
Mhm.
when he's in the lift, and he's got his hair wet, he's just had a shower. The reason why he's got his hair wet in that is because that's a reshoot. They brought him back from here, so he'd already grown his military style hair out to have Vince's hair. So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
brought
yeah,
him in
yeah.
for a reshoot in Top Gun. So the reason why they made his hair wet was because he had his cough from this
It's
film.
weird as well because he looks so much younger in this, and I know
Yeah,
he's
that's.
famous for his
I always thought.
megawatt smile, but in
I always
this,
thought this
it's
was
like,
like all the right moves
I kind
style
of
timing.
associate
Yeah,
this with like risky business
risky
and stuff like
business. Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But it's like his teeth look too big for his head in that kind of like childish way. Like I know he's always had that big megawatt smile, but when you're watching it in Top Gun, he's obviously being sold as a sex symbol. Whereas
Yeah.
in this, yeah, he's like handsome enough, but he looks kind of weedy and like I think they play up to the fact that he's supposed to look like a kid. Like one of the things is like he's obsessed with video games, which is incredibly pertinent, by the way. Him talking about he keeps talking about mention the fact that he's playing Stalker and this idea that if he was if he was the same if Vincent was Vincent in 2025, he'd be doing online gaming and making an absolute killing playing like fucking Fortnite or something like that.
Oh
He
my
wouldn't be
god,
wasting his time with
he
pool.
would as well. He'd be doing fucking pool holes or like the new right now reopened Riley's or whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he'd be
yeah.
doing Fortnite fucking dances, wouldn't he?
Oh, 100% he'd be doing 100% he would be doing Fortnite dances and he'd be even more annoying. But like I said, we tiptoed around it earlier. The fact that Cruz is brilliant, this, and it's because he's such a bell end. And I was looking back, like some of his greatest performances. You think of like the first half of Edge of Tomorrow. He's a complete, like before he's forced into becoming a hero. He spends like half of that film being an absolute sniveling toad. Fantastic
Yeah.
in that. Magnolia, what many consider to be his greatest performance, he's a complete twat. Even in comedies, Tropic Thunder, his character's a bellend, fantastic. Risky Business, he's a pimp in Risky Business, make no mistake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
a fucking pimp. He's an asshole. He's great in it. And Collateral, where he plays a bad guy. He's fucking awesome at playing a bad guy.
Is that the
But
one
it's
with Jamie Foxx?
yeah. Jamie
Yeah,
Foxx,
yeah,
the Michael Mann one. I'm sure it's Michael
yeah.
Mann directed it. And it's just like, I know we have different opinions on where Tom Cruise is nowadays. And, he's become megastar Tom Cruise. I'm just going to be Mission Impossible guy kind of thing. With this being I assume the last Mission Impossible film, I just want nothing more than him to start doing interesting roles. It's the same, like to a lesser extent, because he's just not as good an actor for many reasons. But it's what happened to The Rock, albeit less successfully, where he's just like, I'm just going to play the same character forever now. And it's easy to forget that when The Rock first became an actor, he took up a lot of really interesting roles. And obviously now, rather than kind of waiting to be pushed out the door when it comes to being, the biggest star in the world, he's decided, I'm going to make the move myself, which I think is wise. And he's doing the UFC film next, which looks really interesting.
Oh yeah, the Smashing Machine.
Yeah, and I just hope that Cruise does the same thing. He's got nothing left to prove in terms of box office, all that jazz, save your cinema, all that shit. It's like, go away and just do something really interesting. Like, just, convince Wes Anderson to do something which doesn't look like a Wes Anderson film and be really strange in that. That'd be fantastic.
Can I recommend a Tom Cruise film for you? I say
Go for it.
recommend. You've probably seen it. It was released in 1981, so he's not the star of it. But Timothy Hutton, Sean Penn, Giancarlo Esposito, Ronnie Cox. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or seen it. A film called Taps. Have you ever heard of Taps?
I've 100% heard of Taps and I've never seen it.
Mate, Taps is great.
There's a collection of like, considering I am a big Cruise fan, there are a selection of films which, for one reason or another, I've just never seen. And the big one for me is oh my god, Eyes Wide Shut. I'm a Kubrick fan.
Yeah,
and a
I've
Cruise
never
fan, but
seen
I've just
it.
never watched it.
Yeah, I've never seen it for
But
different reasons.
I feel
it just
like
doesn't interest me.
I get it. Well, obviously, to one extent or another, it hasn't really grabbed me. But at some point, when you're just like, I feel like I should. I not to be able to talk about anything like that, but for my own mental well-being, I feel like I want to have an opinion on it, and I'm not convinced because if I was convinced I'd love it, I would have watched it 20 fucking years ago. But yeah, I've just not got around to it. But sorry, I just wanted to mention one thing because we tiptoed there around the fact that Cruise was like becoming a sex symbol. And it's odd now because I don't think anyone considers Tom Cruise a sex symbol anymore because he's just Tom Cruise and he's like this kind of weird character now.
It's funny because he's kind of like your gross uncle. He's the guy. He's just the guy at the party who's a bit smarmy. He's the uncle at the wedding party that seems to be dancing with girls who might be a little too young for him. It's that gross. Like
you
mate,
can't
you just need to
put your
leave.
finger on it. It's like, part of him, you just like, oh, he seems cool, but there's always something. It was like that recent video where you see him and, he's doing the whole Save Your Cinema, and I'm like, I'm on board with that. And then somebody posts a video of him eating popcorn, and you're like, he can't even eat popcorn like a human being because he never fucking does because he's this strange person who I love as a screen presence, but as a person, a bit odd. But the one movie it hasn't aged wonderfully, but a couple of days ago, Mission Impossible 2 was on TV,
Yeah.
and it's aged the worst of all the Mission Impossible films. It's very 2000, 2001.
That's the John Woo one, isn't it?
Yeah, the John Woo one with Limp
Yeah.
Bizkit and stuff like that. But I tell you what, I was watching, I was like, God damn, Tom Cruise is handsome as fuck in that film. And it was almost like I'd forgotten about it because he's just Tom Cruise now. But I was like, when you watch him in that film and he's got like the long hair and he's got a tan because he's fucking climbing the mountain all the time, I was like, Jesus Christ, that's one handsome fucking movie star motherfucker. But it's like I've just forgotten because I don't see him, like I don't buy him as a human being anymore. He's just Tom Cruise and that's it. But yeah, that's the best thing that's aged about that film. The film hasn't aged great. His look has aged wonderfully because he looks brilliant in it.
I fell down a random rabbit hole as well. Do you know who like more acting credits than Tom Cruise from this film? Lou from Child World, the one who gets shouted at by Vinny, right?
Oh, yeah.
That motherfucker is still acting today. Now, don't get me wrong, he's played like, I don't know, witness number 7 in things on TV and stuff, but that guy is still going. Like, he's done fucking like The Untouchables.
Well, you got the people
I started at like a list, like you'd hear all the other things, but then it's like TV, like Lois and Clark, The New Adventures. But the guy is fucking acting. He's still going until now. He's still going.
Well, if you got that list, because I didn't look this up, and I'd be interested to know what happened to Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, because you mentioned earlier the fact that she, totally holds a role in this film, and obviously this led to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where she played Maid Marian, absolute monster of film.
Yeah.
She was the lead in The Abyss, or the Cody.
Same year? No, it was a year after this, wasn't it? It was 89 years.
89, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, I can't think of another fucking film she's in. I'm like, what the hell happened to Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio? Is it just a dodgy name? I have no idea. So maybe I'm just forgetting a bunch of movies she's in, but it felt like she was this huge deal and then just kind of disappeared.
So she reappeared for me back in 2017. She was like the head CIA woman at for the Punisher TV show for a couple of episodes. So that's where but if I'm honest, mate, fuck me, she was in all 22 episodes of Limitless, the TV show.
Yeah, but what happened to her as a movie star?
Oh, yeah, there's a movie star. She kind of disappeared. So after Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, she did, I haven't heard of many of these or any of these films. White Sands, Consenting Adults, Two Bits. Oh, Three Wishes, maybe that's the one with Patrick Swayze where he just grants wishes. That was weird. Limbo.
That sounds made up. That sounds like you dreamt it. If you weren't, no, I know you're not because you're literally reading it. If you said that just off the cuff, I'm like, I think you made that up.
Patrick Swayze,
Patrick Swayze just offers wishes.
It's that Mandela Effect film, isn't it? With everybody thinks Sinbad was in a genie film.
Oh yeah. But it doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't at all. Oh, and
I always assume someone's going to tell me that Sinbad isn't really called Sinbad and we've just made it up. But no, motherfucker's called Sinbad.
The Perfect Storm as well. So she did The Perfect Storm in 2000, and then kind of just jumped into TV and stuff. Yeah, but she's been floating around TV for the last couple of years. That's it, really.
Yeah. But well, anyway, like the one thing I actually thought was missing from this film, beyond a more consistent narrative, was the fact that, and maybe it doesn't suit the film, but it is lacking a genuinely classic montage. This is an 80s sports movie after all. And it's just, there is kind of one in it, but one of my biggest criticisms of this film, and it starts early doors with Phil Collins playing very loudly in his bar, is the fact that this film doesn't have great music. Now, if you watch The Hustler,
hang on.
Music.
I got to call you out for that. Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon. Fantastic song. I fucking love that song.
But the music in this film is not cool. Like for a film that's largely cool, I mean, with exception, I say that, Newman's cool because Tom Cruise is the complete antithesis of cool. But I was just like, I kept expecting the music to get better. I was just like, man, the music in this film kind of sucks ass. And then you go, like I said, if you go back and watch The Hustler afterwards, as I did, you're like, oh, this has got the kind of score and the kind of music playing you expect.
While he was relearning pool, you needed like You're the Best Around or something.
Oh, dude, that would have been an absolute belter. But I know that's not the way this film goes, because when Vincent and Eddie finally face off, it's so low key. Like when he gets to was it Atlantic City. There
Yeah,
is, as I said, it's unfussy direction until you get these flourishes. And there's one amazing shot at the end of the film where Eddie's playing. It's just before he decides to throw in the towel on the tournament, and you can see his reflection in the pool ball. It's unbelievably on a technical level. But even when they get to Atlantic City, the way that Scorsese shoots the hole initially with the music and stuff, it almost feels like religious. It feels like the way you would shoot a church. But then after that, again, it all suddenly becomes a little bit ESPN, the Ocho. And it's,
yeah.
it's low key, and that stands to their game as well. There's not some like big build up to Vincent versus Eddie. All of a sudden, they're just playing. You don't really know at what point the tournament is. At any point in their game, you don't. It's like, well, what game is this? Is this like game 7 of 8? Is this shot going for the win? And then all of a sudden, it just ends. And you don't even like. He just goes outside. He has this one moment where he's like, "Oh yes, I won," and then that's taken away from him almost immediately.
But it's not just that. It's like when they're doing the underbosses as well. Vincent playing Grady, and you just
I
got,
love that, the underbosses.
they are, aren't they? Like
Oh
you got,
yeah, is that like an official term, or are you making
no,
that
no,
up?
I just made that up. Sorry. You got
Oh no,
Eddie
that's
versus
awesome.
you got Eddie versus Julian, and Julian's like, "You're going down, Eddie." Next thing you see, Julian's walking away. You don't see how Eddie beats him. He just beats him. Like Vincent and Grady
Mhm.
as well, and it's just like.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to lie to you. As I know you're saying some interesting things, but all I'm thinking of now are the underbosses from like Bloodsport and Kickboxer. Like, yeah, they're they're specific. As soon as you said underbosses, I immediately jumped to 900 different 80s movies we've covered on this podcast.
You've
and all
always
the
got the
specific underbosses.
you've always got the guy you've got to beat before you get to the main guy.
Yeah. There's like cannon fodder, and then there's an underboss, and then there's the main character you have to beat. Yeah, there's always one. There's always, like you say, like in those tournaments, it's like you have like, let's say Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's fighting away. They'll cut away, obviously, to the main guy he's about to fight, but then they'll show you 2 other dudes and be like, oh no, these guys are legit as well. So both your main characters are going to fight these guys in the semifinals. It's not going to be a walkover because these guys are legit, but they're obviously going to win because they're underbosses.
You had the introduction to him as well. Vincent was already playing Grady, and Vincent proved like he's telling Eddie's telling Vincent to dump the game. He's like, no, I can't do it. And then the only reason Eddie doesn't like Julian is because Julian snorted some cocaine in the bathroom. Apparently, I think that's. But
I think as well, he knows he's not that good. Like, the way that Vincent just took him to the cleaners, he's just like, oh no, this is the fucking guy.
But that's it. But you don't see him take him to the cleaner. You don't see the underboss fights. Then again, you don't see the main fight either. Like you said, between it just ends. The other thing that I thought was very weird. I liked it as well.
Okay.
When Eddie is first walking up to the casino in Atlantic City, and it feels like very 70s esque, like boardwalk kind of thing. Yeah. Well, before he goes in there, mind.
Oh, but everything about that whole sequence in Atlantic City in particular, it feels very 70s, 80s.
Yeah, but the boardwalk looks empty. And I'm like, what fucking, this Atlantic City? You think it'd be busy. All of a sudden, he walks into the hotel. Oh, that's why, because everyone's at the fucking crabs tables. It's like they took everybody from New Jersey and just stuffed them into that hotel. It was absolutely ridiculous. Like, you couldn't move. Post-COVID now, that scares the life out of me, the amount of people that were in there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's part of like the whole keeping this under budget thing. You notice, like, I guess you missed the time of day they shot. Like in Chicago, they're shooting on like nondescript streets. They're often empty. There's no one around. They're not paying extras or anything like that. It's actually one of the stories that Tom Cruise tells about. There's a sequence when Vincent, it's after he's played Grady, and he does dump eventually. But he storms out. He's like, oh, what the fuck are we doing here? You gave me the babushka or whatever it's called. What's the name of that? Balabushka.
Balabushka, yeah.
Which of course you just kept getting told is a big deal, but I'm just like, what the fuck's a balabushka? Supposedly it must be a big deal because the balabushka in the film isn't even a balabushka.
It's not a balabushka, no. It's
they used to J18, whatever that fucking means. But there's a sequence where Paul Newman is driving along in the car and Cruise is walking along, and he looks freezing, and it's because he is. And he said, Newman came up to me. So, did you pick your wardrobe in the summer? And he's like, oh, rookie move, kid. So he picked his wardrobe in the middle of summer. And of course, then there's shooting in the winter. And Tom Cruise is like, I'm doing that sequence. And you've got Newman in the car. He's got the heat cranked up to max. He's got this massive coat on. And I'm walking outside and I can hardly fucking breathe because I'm so cold. And he's just like, well, this was your choice, kid. What are you going to fucking do?
That's where
there's a bunch of sequences when you watch it. And like, Tom Cruise looks fucking freezing cold. He absolutely was.
That's when Newman turned around to Scorsese and goes, I don't think I could. I think I could have done that scene better. Can we do it again?
Oh yeah, he would fucking. Yeah, he's so fucking cool. I'm so glad he won an Oscar for this film.
You said as well that this missed a classic montage.
Hmm.
Do you feel as well this film missed a threat? Like, there's always a threat in these kind of sports films. There's the team that you need to beat.
Yeah, yeah.
There's I don't know. There's the owner that's going to close the game,
Hmm.
not the game, the team down because they're not getting sales in. So we got to win the pennant to do it. There's always some sort of threat. There's always something to fight against. But
Hmm.
for this, there's not. It's literally just you're good at pool. I want to be back in the pool game again. Let's do it. And it just kind of goes on from there.
I know what you mean. I think the reason for that is because the film, to an extent, is something of a bait and switch. As you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, it's like because for 90 minutes you're like, oh, this is like an older man passing on his skill set to his kind of the younger generation kind of thing, But then you realize, like I said, and you realize at the same time as Eddie, and if they sell this too early, it doesn't work. But all of a sudden, it's just like I don't want this anymore. I want, I want to get back to the person I was. I need to rediscover myself. And it's like, he thinks he's doing that when he meets Vincent because he can get back into the game. But then when he gets back into the game, he's like, this isn't the person I want to be anymore. I want,
Yeah.
it's the whole like, are you a hustler because you want to make the money, or is it for a love of the game? And eventually it becomes a love of the game, and that's when you leads to that fantastic final sequence with him and Tom Cruise, where it's just like, I want one game, I want your best. And I
Yeah.
wasn't sure about the first time I watched it, but I loved the whole back and forth, and I even like the fact that you didn't see them play, the whole like, oh, it doesn't matter if you beat me because I'll come back because I'm committed to this now. I've got like this purpose back in my life. But then it's a bit of a big stylistic swing where it's like, hey, I'm back. Like that's the final line
Yeah.
in the film, and there's a proper freeze frame on his face, and it goes to ending, and I was just like, it's very Rocky 3, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it reminds me
Yeah.
of. And the first time I watched it, I was just like, I'm not sure about that. When I rewatched it this time, I was like, I fucking love the ending. I love the ending. I love the hey, I'm back. I love the freeze frame. I'm totally on board.
I felt for poor Janelle though. Proper
Mhm.
ride or die, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
she made me laugh as well when Vincent comes in and says, "I let you win," and it was beautiful. It was beautiful on
Mhm.
the 5. And as she left, and I'm not verbatim quoting this, but as he left, she just turns around and goes, "Dick," or something like that.
Yeah,
She just
yeah.
calls him out.
He's such a
Yeah,
prick. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah.
But throughout the film,
Mhm.
there's just little snippets of, "No, we're going to Bermuda. We're going," and then all of a sudden, she's gone out to support him because he's
Mhm.
playing pool, and she's gone to support her man. I was thinking, oh, after this game, yeah, we will. Maybe we'll take the winnings. We'll go to Bermuda. And
Mhm.
then this fucker, Eddie Felson, is going, oh, you don't beat me now. I'll see you again in next week in Texas. I'll see you the week after in.
Yeah.
And she's thinking, when the fuck am I going to Bermuda?
Well, I mentioned like one of my big issues of this film is that, and I'm stepping on my hates here, the fact that it is a tad meandering at times, the plot.
Yeah,
And the one who suffers most from that is the relationship with Janelle. And this isn't Helen Shaver's fault. Like she puts in a perfectly decent performance. She's just not given the screen time. And you feel like because of what happened with the love interest and the hustler, that this was maybe initially supposed to be, and maybe in the book, because I didn't realize that this was based on a Walter Tevis book as well, the same as the original. But I was, I wouldn't be surprised if you read the book that she plays a bigger part and that relationship is a core element of the book. In the movie, it feels like a bit of an afterthought. There's no two ways about it. Like, you get hints of like that being part of his, what drives Eddie, but instead that doesn't really land because they put all the emphasis on that relationship between him and Vincent, and obviously the three of them with Carmen.
yeah.
And then Janelle just kind of drifts in and out of the film, and she just, even by the end, she just doesn't feel important. At no point in the film does Janelle feel important to me, not one bit.
No,
And I think it's one
no.
of the biggest issues
Like I
of the film.
said, she could have literally been some one night stand he was selling
Yeah,
booze to at the beginning of the
100%.
film. You didn't need it. I don't know what, like they didn't flesh out, and that's on mine as well. Like they didn't flesh out that relationship. It was just every time you needed a bit more from, I guess, Newman on his own,
Mhm.
you have him on the phone with her or something like that. It's just, yeah,
Maybe, and I didn't even think about your point, but if throughout the film you're like, is the whole Janelle thing slightly pointless? Absolutely. By the end of the film, like you said, it's like, oh, we're finally going to go to Bermuda, and then he completely undermines it by saying, no, I'm going to play pool every fucking day, and I'm just going to keep playing you until I beat you, and that's the end of it. It's just like, dude, you're not going to forget about Bermuda. I don't
yeah,
think he gives a shit about you, Janelle. But anyway, should we move on to favorite
yeah,
scene?
yeah. Go for it.
I mean, I do. It probably is the final scene, and I won't go bang into it because I literally just talked about it. But I love the fact that you don't see them play. It's just that reminder as well that this movie is Newman's movie. That it really is about his journey, and that as great as Cruise is, even his narrative is just complementing Newman's journey, which is the
Yeah.
core. Obviously, going right back to the Hustler, it's the continuation of that story first and foremost. And Cruise is just playing like a really major supporting character. If that kind of makes sense, but the fact that he gets that lust for life and getting over that loss at the end of the Hustler, it kind of all comes together in that final moment. So I'm going to say the final sequence, and of course, as I mentioned, that final line.
So for me, it mentions Newman's journey as well, and it's a bit less of a favorite scene and more of a favorite few scenes together. It is Newman's journey. It's when he takes the Balabushka or the cue.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he asks for that of Vincent, and then he goes and he plays against the couple of people. He plays against the dude who's so nice. He's like, Diane, give me a couple of whiskey sodas and some food, for my. And like he's starting to get his Stella's getting a groove back. He's starting to get his little groove back. But then as soon as he feels like he's on form and he's beating this guy who's maybe the same age as him, along comes fucking Amos and just takes his legs out from under him straight away and just hustles him. And
what a great cameo. What a great cameo.
But it's mad. So you've got that journey of, oh, maybe I can do this again. Oh, wait, no, I am a bit old because this guy's fucked me over. And it's just that little journey. And I love that. And I love the way Newman is portraying confidence, but also then portraying like, well, I'm trying to be confident, but this guy is like, I've totally fucked up here. This guy is totally
it's just like how much he's on the edge kind of thing. It's all like he builds up this wall based on confidence and based on knowing the game. And, of course, being a hustler is the whole point that you're supposed to be the one doing the hustling. And then it's just like how easily he was played there. It's just like, fuck, man. I was just taken to school and I didn't even realize that. He even said, it's like all the signs were there and I was just ignoring them. And it's just that whole thing. It's just like, that's part of the point again. It's like, am I really into this? Is this what I'm trying to do? Or, do I want my life to go in a different direction?
Yeah. No, agree.
In terms of loves and hates, number one, Newman, just all charm in this film. As we mentioned, he won the Oscar for it and well deserved. Scorsese's good, Cruise is good and stuff like that. But the star of the show, back to front, is absolutely Newman. But saying that, number two, Cruise is great at being a dick. It's a great performance. And as I said, very self-unaware. This isn't, movie star Top Gun Tom Cruise. This is, I'm going to provide, fucking assists to Newman, basically, and he does it fantastically. And, the quietly brilliant direction from Scorsese, not too flashy, but, those aforementioned subtle flourishes. He actually originally planned to shoot it in black and white, which I think would have been interesting. And I think nowadays you would end up with two cuts, wouldn't you? They would release the film and then kind of like they did with Mad Max Fury Road and be like, oh, here's the black and white version. Which,
the chrome version. Black and white,
which would make sense given, the original and everything. And the fact that, nothing showy or glamorous about Chicago and Atlantic City. The fact that it's shot on location, the fact that you really feel like you're there, all fantastic. So those are my loves.
Same for me. Newman is great in this. The reason why this film is so good is because of Newman, because of that character. It is not the Fast Eddie you knew from The Hustler. It is a completely different character with the same name, and it's beautiful. Second, that it made me revisit The Hustler. I watched this film and I had to go back and revisit The Hustler.
Same here.
So, yep, really enjoyed that. And I'm going to put Tom Cruise and Master Antonio together. I think they were great together. It's just
I'm going to ask you this, because this is one of the things, right? And I should have mentioned earlier. Cruise, as good as he can be, the one thing he can't do is provide chemistry on screen with a female. He just can't do it.
No, he can't.
This is one of the better examples. It's still not great, but it's slightly better than most.
I'm not putting their chemistry when I'm putting them together.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
It's like the love-hate thing. That the fact that she can puppet master him. She knows exactly what she's doing. And she seems to shine when she's on screen with Cruise and using...
I think so, yeah.
Using Cruise. And it's that thing as well, right? When she said, how did you meet Vince? Well, my ex-boyfriend robbed the mum's house. And see this pendant that I stole from her mum?
That's cold-blooded, that is.
He's like, oh, my mum's got one of them. No, love, I've got it.
Unbelievable. Like, to keep wearing it is properly caught.
Because Vince is stupid.
Vince, well, that's the thing. He's naive. That's the thing. And that's the thing. By the end, that is, you think about the person that Vincent becomes by the end. He's a dick, but he's a dick in a different way, and he starts to manipulate, obviously, Eddie. And you can see even the way his relationship with Carmen. He's the one running the show now, and he's telling Carmen what to do, not the other way around. And you're like, oh, he's in danger of like not just becoming annoying, but becoming a nasty piece of work. And that will be the fault of Eddie largely because of the way he's pushed him in that direction. So he does, like I say, go on a journey, but not the hero's journey by any chance. He just goes from being an annoying dick to just, oh, he's just a dick now. Yeah. But good stuff.
Hate.
Hates, number one, I mentioned earlier, not crazy about the soundtrack. Number two, Eddie's shift from consummate hustler to lover of the game feels slightly abrupt. I'm still not completely convinced by his response to the Whittaker loss. As I said, even rewatching it, I was just like, is this all part of his hustle? I don't know. And number three, it did need a top tier 80s montage. And number four, I'm going to have to mention it again. It does occasionally lack narrative drive. It's always pleasant, but occasionally meandering. And I think that's what ultimately keeps it from greatness. It's like, even when I was trying to think of like my favorite scene, the movie, not in an unpleasant way, just kind of washes over me, but nothing necessarily jumps out. I'm just like, because I watched this for the first time like 2 or 3 years ago. And even going back and rewatching, I was just like, man, I can't remember a lot of this. And when those films where your overriding memory of the film is just the fact that you liked it, but nothing else jumps out. I had the same with the Coen Brothers remake of True Grit. It was like 10 years later, and I was talking to someone about it. I was like, oh yeah, I went to see that in the cinema. And I was like, all I can remember about it is the fact that I liked it, but I couldn't tell you anything else about that fucking film. And I have a similar relationship with this. I like it, I enjoy it, but nothing quite jumps out. But those are my hates anyway.
Kind of on the vein with you as well. Like for that, I like it, I enjoy it, but my God, it sometimes feels like an episode, like because not much happens in it.
No.
Could be a 45-minute episode of TV. Like it could be a quantum leap or
but
something
just with
like that.
Just like a lot of really high quality talent behind the scenes coming.
Yeah. But it's like 2 hours long or however long it is, or it could be 45 minutes because not much happens in it. You can take a Laura of the Pool, Laura of the Traveling and Talking of it becomes an episode of TV. My other one was the fact that there wasn't a lot of pool. Like I know what you're saying, you could, but it's more of the character's a pool player. Maybe I wanted to see more of the games and everything like that. But I mean, yeah. And I don't know. I couldn't really think of a third. Like, it's not that this film was brilliant in any way, shape, or form. It's the best. There wasn't anything really because not a lot happened. Not a lot of this film.
I have honestly, I have a similar relationship with it where I was just like, I know it's not a masterpiece by any stretch, but I don't like, and we mentioned this right at the top of the podcast. I don't have any obvious issues with it. Like, I like the performances, I like the direction, I like the movie, I like the story, but there's something about it where it doesn't jump. And like, you only need to go back and watch The Hustler with its more traditional narrative, where you have these like sticking points throughout the movie and these kind of big narrative and plot moments which you can kind of hang your hat on, like the suicide and all these other things. And that movie, like the moments jump out of you in a way that they don't in this film. And I think that's probably the reason that this film isn't quite, it's held in very high regard, but it isn't held in quite as high regard as the Hustler. I think it is for that reason, that it's always good, but it's rarely exceptional, I think, is the problem with it.
There you go then. So I'll give it it's so tenuous. The fact that it didn't bring back Minnesota Fats, the original plot of The Color of Money, the book, was TV games between Fast Eddie and Minnesota Fats, and then the story revolving that. So the fact that you don't get that back was
he did turn it down eventually, because originally
so they originally had it, and then Newman convinced them, and they rewrote it. But then Jackie Gleason read the script and went, "Yeah, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for the character of Minnesota Fats." So he turned it down. That's why
I think he was exactly what it was. He's just like, this is just forced. It's like, I don't need to be in this film, so he's not going to bother, which is absolutely fine. Just leave it with the Hustler, no problem at all. Any alternative titles to this film?
Yeah. Is that
Hustler 2, Color of Money?
I mean, Czechoslovakia was Money Color.
No, you've got that wrong.
Canada or French Canada was The Color of Silver.
No, because they're not exactly handing around fucking silver dollars, are they? They're working in notes here. This isn't the Old West.
Denmark, It's All About Money. I like that. You just said it's all about notes. Finland, Large Banknotes.
Little on the nose. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's both on the nose and not on the nose at all, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Lithuania, Money Splendor.
Nope.
Do we have anything else? Taiwan, The True Color of Money.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That actually kind
Uh,
of cuts more to like, the kind of theme sitting behind the scenes, I guess, the true color of money. I think that's actually even better than the color of money.
I will say because it's slightly different, but it's obviously a translation issue. Vietnam, Colors of Money.
Colors of money, fair enough. I
Yeah.
actually think, this is one of the rare ones where I think the true color of money is actually a better title than the color of money. I think it evokes the themes more successfully.
Yeah.
Any others, or is that all of them?
That's all of them, mate.
Cool. Any facts? Well, we've
There are a
already mentioned a
few
few, haven't we?
facts. Yeah, we've mentioned a few, but I'll mention a couple more. So,
Cool.
more of a link than anything else for this one. So, when Vincent comes to Eddie's room near the end of the movie to tell him that he let Eddie beat him, the music playing in Eddie's room is of jazz saxophonist Charlie Parker performing "I'll Remember April." 2 years after this film was made, Forrest Whitaker, who played Amos, portrayed Charlie Parker in the Clint Eastwood film Bird.
See, now I'm criticizing the film. It's got Charlie Parker in it. Like that's good stuff. There is good stuff in this film. Like it's not all terrible music. You mentioned one of the songs. It's just it never quite hits the heights. I don't know. Maybe I'm expecting more jazz. I don't know, but never mind.
Creators of an up and coming software company were looking for a name for their revolutionary new video game. They got it from the scene in which Tom Cruise walks into the pool hall and is asked, "What's in that case he's carrying?" His answer, Doom.
Doom.
Yeah.
The new Doom is up, by the way, which I Sam played. I've
Is that
downloaded
the
it.
medieval Doom?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't like a Doom kid growing up because I was always a console kid. Rather, I knew you could get on consoles, but it was always like an Amiga, Atari, PC game, whatever you want to call it. But Doom 2016, the reboot, is like one of my favorite games of all time, and I
Yeah.
love the last one as well, Doom Eternal. So I'm looking forward to this one. But
I bet you
go on
love
to
the
it next week.
2005 Doom film as well, don't you, with The Rock?
Oh my days, that film's a piece of shit.
Right, moving on swiftly. At one
Quickly,
point in
though.
the film, Eddie comments that it's been 25 years since he last played. In real life, it had been 25 years. 1961 for The Hustler,
Mhm.
1986 for this film. So,
It's pretty cool. Is
uh,
this like the original Legacy sequel?
I think so. It's got to be one of them, yeah.
It's got to be because that
And
was the
it's got
whole
to
thing.
be.
Like they never used to make sequels. Like
So
that
if
was one
this
of the
is
big things about like Star Wars. Like, oh my God, there's more than one Star Wars film. It's like, it sounds weird now. Like, why is that a big deal? They never used to make sequels. Like, I'm
so
sure there was some, but hardly ever.
if this is one of the first or the original, then they should have just ended it because this broke the mold and they don't need to do legacy sequels anymore.
You can make good legacy sequels, and
You
this is a
can, they
perfect
just don't.
example.
You
They,
can make good
they
legacy sequels, they just don't.
I know you're not a big fan. I mean, like one of the ones I would say is like recently was Top Gun. I thought that was a fantastic
Oh yeah,
legacy.
fair.
It's one of those films where I think it's actually considerably better than the original. It lacks some of the 80s charm, but it's a better movie. There are, even like The Force Awakens was kind of a legacy sequel, I suppose, but we proved it with like Indiana Jones with the diminishing returns. You're really skating on thin ice with these legacy sequels. I mean, I know some people like Beetlejuice. Even that I didn't think was very good.
No, it wasn't good.
So yeah, I would say like what are you talking like 1 in 5 is decent. The rest are usually ass. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
this is one of the better ones for sure.
Martin Scorsese said that he mainly did this at the insistence of Paul Newman and to prove that he could make a mainstream studio picture that would be finished on time and under budget. He felt that considering his minimal input, that it was not a personal picture and he was more or less a hired gun, which is basically what I said.
You're gonna have
The
a gun, might as well be Scorsese.
the quote I did about Nine Ball at the beginning was done better in this film, and that was Martin Scorsese's voice. That was him
I
that
don't know, man.
narrated it
Yeah,
at the
that was
beginning.
one of your. I thought that was one of your best intros. I was like, dude, man, you're fucking nailing this intro. It's like get the cameras on him.
During a weekend, just in the middle of production, Paul Newman brought Tom Cruise to a car race to show him how to drive a high-speed car. I mean, yep, that's facts, apparently. That's
Fair
trivia.
enough. Fair enough. Well,
Fucking hell.
I guess like Cruise, yeah, he just learns to do everything apparently.
Yeah. At one point, Eddie tells Vincent he hasn't played a serious pool since before Vincent was born. In real life, Tom Cruise wasn't born until the year after The Hustler.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio's only Oscar-nominated performance.
Oh, I didn't know she had an Oscar nomination for this.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, she's good in it. I mean, I'm not sure if she's Oscar nominated. A big part of it though depends on like the year. Like every so often you can get like your knickers in a twist. You'll be like, how the fuck didn't you get like an Oscar nomination this year? And then you go and look at the Oscars and it's like a fucking murderer's row. And you're like, all right, fair enough, fair enough. Some years are weaker than others. So some years.
I
Yeah, there we
mean,
go.
this trivia, right? If this is true, Roger Ebert's a shite bag for this.
Mm,
But the only Scorsese film which Roger Ebert did not review favorably, but at least he didn't publish Scorsese's home address like he did with several horror films he negatively reviewed.
what, Roger Ebert did that?
Apparently, if it was a
What
horror
the
film he didn't like, he gave people the director's home address.
My God, that's self-entitled, isn't it? Jesus wept. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, tear the movies to pieces, but
yeah.
but maybe it was a different time. They used to get it with like if you go back and listen or read reports from like baseball in particular, because there's more of an attachment to the past with baseball than there are with other sports. And you can you read these news reports like the World Series in like 1930, and they would just tear people to pieces. Like, it was just so fucking mean spirited, and maybe Roger Ebert was just doing the same thing with movies. But
Yeah.
still, I'm not condoning sending people's addresses. Jesus
No, not
Christ.
at all. So the last one then as well. This film was released exactly 1 month before Martin Scorsese's 44th birthday, which
Mhm.
means he probably filmed around about 43 or 42, which is our age basically. So what the fuck are you doing at that age? Because Scorsese's making these films.
I know, unbelievable. Although he was also coming off the back end of like a pretty extreme cocaine addiction, so he lived
Okay,
life
yeah,
to
yeah.
be a max back then. That's for
I
sure.
mean,
I'm sure
swings and
he
roundabouts, I guess. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. In terms of Hug to the Future, remake, sequel, Let It Die, Live Well Alone, we've already mentioned the fact that this is one of the great legacy sequels. Of course, the answer is Leave Well Alone. Like, what are you going to do? Remake The Hustler and this? Like, what, 25 years apart? Get the fuck. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah. Unless you're going to make even like if you decided, should we make the third film in like, I don't know, what would it be, like 1996 or something like that? Nobody wants to see that. It's got a perfect ending. Leave well alone, to say the least.
I mean, you already said it with the ending about like he says, "I'm back." That's fine. We don't need to see now his downfall. After that, I'm
No,
back,
no,
and
no.
we don't need to see him now on his last legs again. He's teaming up with I don't know Vincent's grandson or the fucking whatever. No, I'm with you. Oh, sorry, just making loud noises. Leave well alone.
Yeah.
I think this film is for lack of a better word, perfect for what it is, and I think you
Mhm.
should
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
weird,
need
isn't it?
anything more than this.
I find it so weird talk, and we'll get to it in a minute in terms of ratings because I even find rating this film quite tricky.
Yeah.
Make a change. I wouldn't change too much. Like I said, maybe a better soundtrack. I can mention, the whole meandering plot to a certain extent, but I think you would lose the whole surprise element of it becoming very much Newman's story, like 90 minutes in and being like, almost to the point where Cruise is just pushed into the background. So I'm just going to go low key and say better soundtrack because there are very few things I dislike about this film. So
Be fair, I thought we were going to say the same, and the right. I agree with what you're saying, but the right answer is definitely it didn't need Janelle.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It either needed to flesh her out or just get
Mm,
rid of her and make her a one night stand because
mm, mm.
it didn't need that like that random love story that what wasn't there. He wasn't showing any attraction to her or anything like that. It was just lies. It was another
There wasn't
con. It
much
just yeah.
chemistry, and like in fairness, right? Like you mentioned earlier, and you do need these characters in films where you're like, well, why is that person? It's like because you need this character, the main character, to be able to. They're basically explaining it to the audience, but they need someone to stand there so they're not talking to themselves. Sometimes you get characters like that. Janelle could have been that, but then she shows up at the end of the film. She's there in the room at the end. You're just
Yeah.
like, I just don't feel like she needed to come to Atlantic City. So yeah, I
Agreed.
absolutely agree. Yeah, the soundtrack is whatever, but Janelle can go. Video games, unsurprisingly, none. If I was going to make a video game of this, I would go the Rockstar approach and do what they did for table tennis back in like 2006, 2007. So it was almost like a tech demo for the new engine they were going to use on Grand Theft Auto 4. Before
Okay.
releasing Grand Theft Auto 4, they made a table tennis game, which was surprisingly fantastic. I would just love it. And of course, Rockstar could do it because they've got all the money in the world. It'd be like if they've got a new GTA engine coming out after GTA 6 and being like, all right, how do we, stress test this? We're going to make a pool game based loosely on the universe of Color of Money and The Hustler. And you can have like black and white levels. You don't have to worry about the story. The story's already been told. I don't want to relive it. You can just be like, kind of like they did with did you ever play Beatles rock band?
Yeah.
Like I was like I always like had like most people I played some Guitar Hero, some Rockstar, but I did play the Beatles one, and I thought the way they treated it was genius because basically the story as you pick songs it went through their career, and of course it was all like different styles. Like suddenly you get to like the late 60s and the Yellow Submarine and stuff like that. It's like you didn't have a narrative, it's just visually telling you the story of the Beatles kind of history. And I would love them to do the same with The Hustler and The Color of Money, but just have it at its core, just a pool game, but made by Rockstar. So that's my answer.
To be fair, I was trying to think of this as well because it's hard to mix story with pool. You can't
Mhm.
really do it. And there's in the film, it feels like there's not much pool, but also if you look at there's not much narrative, and it's really
Mhm.
weird why this film is good when you think about it that way because there's not much around, but it's still a good
Performances,
film.
isn't it? Yeah.
So the only thing I could think of was having it like as an extra tournament style within the iOS game Eight Ball Pool, like the mini
Okay.
clip
Okay.
game,
Hmm.
where you have like the color of money edit
Hmm.
or something where you could do you're building up to the New Jersey. So you're going through all the pool
Hmm.
houses that they went through, the crappy ones in
Yeah. Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
You're fighting, you're not fighting, you're playing these guys. You come across Vince, you come across
Hmm.
Fast Eddie towards the end, kind of like Punch Out, I guess kind of thing where
Yeah, I
you
mean,
end up playing.
anything which
Yeah,
evokes Punch Out, one of my favorite video games of all time,
yeah,
I'm more than happy with. So, yeah, yeah, I love the idea of the poor version of Punch Out. That'd be
yeah.
fantastic.
That's it. Yeah.
Best and worst of IMDb. So, this is where we pick a random 10-star and 1-star review for this film. As for the number of written reviews for this film, I'm going to say 172.
Oh, dude, 193.
Oh, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
10-star, and go with 42.
Oh, 21.
21. Oh, I've
Yeah.
doubled it. I've doubled it.
Yeah, you
Doubled it.
literally have that. That was good. Then. Oh, you doubled in. I have this. Sorry. I not good with maths apparently.
That's quite all right.
Right. So yeah. So for the 10-star, this was written in 2005, titled "One of the Best '80s Movies." The Color of
Okay.
Money profiles the business partnership between pool guru Fast Eddie Felson and his protege Vincent as he learns the nuts and bolts of pool hustling. It's a beautifully written movie with crisp and believable dialogue and a wonderfully entertaining premise. This is one of the best '80s movies in terms of intelligence and character balance, and Tom Cruise and Paul Newman play off one another fabulously. Where most master student movies are unabashedly sentimental after the tough guy veneer has been peeled back, the relationship between Vincent and Eddie remains platonic and businesslike, and lends to the believability of Newman's character. The scene in which Eddie and Carmen are in the hotel room in which he pretends to go after her, only to call her bluff as she flaunts herself sexually, is incredibly brilliant and offers a chance for Eddie to philosophize on the business, showing himself to be a classy hustler, if ever there was such a kind, not subject to the average man's appetites for or common temptations. He is no washed up has been. He is no down on his luck, self pitying dreg. From Eddie's character, we see a complex optimist without being campy, who is comfortable in the most banal of circumstances and whose street education gives him the unique ability to see the potential of any situation. As far as character movies go, this one offers a great balance of development and story. Newman's performances is flawless, and the obnoxious juvenile charm of Vincent is a benchmark of Tom Cruise's earlier film credits. Can I just say, that's one of the most beautifully and thought out reviews we have done since we've done this.
Yeah, it almost sounded professional, and I agree with nearly everything there. And it kind
Yeah,
of like adequately kind of states, why this movie works in so many respects is because because of that level of believability, because you buy into the characters and their relationships. You think about like a lot of films, of this ilk, they would try and force a kind of father-son relationship between Eddie and Vincent, and it never becomes that. And a part of it is, it's just like, well, that wouldn't happen in the space of a couple of weeks. It is business-like, and obviously, rather than a kind of sparking something in his relationship with Vincent, it sparks it in himself instead. It's just like, well, this is just, I never get the impression he particularly likes Vincent. He just sees it as an opportunity. I'm not even sure how much Carmen likes Vincent. The reason this movie works is because all three characters are perfectly
yeah.
imperfect, if that makes sense. But yeah, wonderful review.
Wonderful review. I feel that it's too good for this podcast because
Well, you
I
think he's
like
shown us up? He's shown us up. That's what it's done.
and that's what I like the episodes where the episodes. Sorry, I like the reviews where they haven't used any punctuation. They don't know what they're talking about. They're coming up with words and
This is
things.
a
It's just
this is a classier movie. This is what happens when we end up. I think this is our first Scorsese movie. It's like if you go back and we're doing like Running Man. I love the Running Man. I
yeah,
mentioned last week the fact that I love Teen Wolf, but Teen Wolf is also objectively a bad film, but a really entertaining one. It's like you read a review. It's like movie good film turns into Wolf. It's like, yeah, okay, I expect a little bit better at the Color of Money. So
yeah.
yeah, this is what we run into. Well written reviews. Who thought?
Yeah. On that note, let's go for 1 stars.
So this is going to be interesting. I can't be many. Sure, 7.
Oh, dude, 6.
Oh, close, close, close.
Ah.
Not
Right.
this week.
So written in 2015. titled "The Most Boring Movie I've Ever Seen."
Here we go. Here we go. This won't have much punctuation.
I can't believe this snooze fest is actually made by Martin Scorsese of all people. It's about people playing pool for money in bars and in actual official tournaments, as if it were baseball. You think it sounds boring? Watching paint dry would be more exciting. Nothing happens for an hour and a half. All the characters are unlikable and the performances are awful, and the actors seem as bored as the audience. The only thing about the movie that was enjoyable was Tom Cruise's ridiculous hair and his even worse clothes. I don't care if Paul Newman was one of those great actors from the good old days, and I don't care if Scorsese made Cape Fear his masterpiece 5 years later. Both Newman and Scorsese. Both Newman and Scorsese.
I thought this was the hot take. No. Cape Fear is the hot take for sure.
Both Newman and Scorsese suck with this movie. And to make it worse, I hate Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, the woman with the most ridiculous last name whose career ended sometime after The Abyss. Avoid the stinker, especially if you like Tom Cruise. Thank you. Thank you for bringing us back on this fucking episode.
Yeah, that's much more Hey You Guys podcast material right there. So everything he said was insane. But the craziest one was the Cape Fear one. Like, when you're just sitting there, it's like, oh, maybe he's got a point. And then he's just like, oh, Scorsese's masterpiece, Cape Fear. It's like, oh, okay, buddy. Don't get me wrong. Just be clear. I like Cape Fear.
Oh, but his masterpiece is basically a remake.
Yeah, it is a remake. Yeah. And it's a perfectly fun.
Oh, it's good.
It's
it
slightly pulpy movie. Yeah. Some great. I love Nick Nolte in it. I love Robert De Niro in it. It's not his best film. I mean, you need to settle down with that shit. But this is a guy with quite strong opinions, shall we say? Yeah. So, as much as I agree with the first one, I completely disagree with the second one, especially like Newman shit in this film. It's like, okay, settle down there, sunshine. Oscar-winning Paul Newman from this film.
I was so upset, right? Sorry. He got so upset. Like he was going on about, was it to make it worse? I hate Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, the one with the most ridiculous last name ever.
Yeah,
he spelled Mastrantonio.
True, in
he spelled Mastrantonio correctly though, and misspelled Elizabeth. He put an X in there.
Wow, this is what we're dealing with. These are the kind of psychos we're dealing with.
It's got a silent X.
That was the one thing I did. Her name is ludicrous, and she did disappear. But other than that, everything else was nonsense. As for ratings and recommendations, I did eventually settle on 4. I was never going to give this film 5, just to be clear. In another world, I could easily give this film a 3 because, as I said, it does kind of wash over you. But I think I actually preferred it second time round. I think it bedded in on me a little bit more, and I was more willing to go with its kind of unconventional narrative and unconventional relationships between the 3 leads. As I said, I wasn't sure about that final scene first time I watched it. I loved it this time around. So it's a 4-star from me. But if you were to give it a 3, I would 100% understand because I kind of went back and forth. If we were doing the 10-point scale, this might set at a 7, but I'm comfortable with a 4. And yes, I would recommend it. I do.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask for that. Yeah. So same with you, right? It's not a 5, but I was bouncing around between a 3 and a 4, and I was just thinking, well, 3 seems a bit harsh. 4 seems like a lot more kind of happened. So I'm sorry, mate, but it went 3.5. It went dead in the middle.
7. If ever a film justified your 10-point scale, it probably is this one, in fairness.
Yeah.
But as I said, push come to shove, I feel much more comfortable. Like 7 is probably right, but when I say 4, that feels right. When I said 3, I was just like, no, it's not average. That sounds too average.
I love how you can't say 3.5. So you said, no, it's 7. Like you can't do the 3. It's a 3.5.
And even then, I'm arguing about, well, it's not quite a 3, it's a 4, but I prefer to say 4.
But it is a recommend for me as well. If somebody said, look, I've got The Color of Money to watch tonight, I said, yeah, honestly, watch it. It's just watch it for Newman alone. Fucking Newman's great in this film.
And like you said, we can kind of split hairs, 3, 3.5, 4 kind of thing. But it's a really good version of whatever score you want to give it. It's a really fun watch. As I said, it doesn't have a bunch of memorable sequences, but it's just always good. Like that was one of the issues. It's never exceptional, but it's never even remotely close to being bad. It's always just good, just settles into a rhythm early doors and basically stays in that rhythm all the way through. You get a slight rise towards the end of the film with the tournament, but even then it's still shot in a relatively low-key manner. It's just happy to just ride along at this pace and this vibe for 2 hours, and it's a perfectly enjoyable watch.
It sounds terrible to say it, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's acceptable. Film is acceptable. Like it's structurally
acceptable, but it's elevated by the direction and the cast. If like I know exactly what you mean. If this film didn't have Paul Newman and Tom Cruise in those roles and they were just like whatever actors, you'd be like, this is three as fuck.
Yeah.
They're the ones, and as I said, those little I know he was taking his work, but it's still Scorsese, and you do get those flourishes. They're the kind of pieces that ultimately push it over the edge, which make this more special. And of course, if you've seen The Hustler, then it has more of an impact. In fact, if I was going to recommend anything, I'd recommend you go and watch The Hustler. And then, if you enjoy that, go and watch this afterwards. So yeah, watch both. I'm going to recommend both, in fact. But
So
yeah,
I love
3.5, whatever.
I love The Hustler. I really do. I think it's such a great film. But I have two other Pool films that I prefer, not over The Hustler, kind of over the Color of Money. So there's Pool, and to be fair, one released in 2001, one released in 2002, and you haven't heard of either of them. I know that for a fact. Pool Hall Junkies, written, directed, produced, everything by somebody called Mars Callahan, but it was starring him, Chaz Palminteri, Michael Rosenbaum, Christopher Walken. It's just about pool hustlers again, and it's some guy who's trying to make. He's been hustling since he was a kid, and he just don't want to hustle anymore. It's just it's weird.
I remember seeing the poster, the black and white poster. I totally remember that. Yeah.
So it for me, it felt like a Clerks-esque film. They were trying to stylize it. I mean, negative reviews decent cast, negative reviews all across the board, but I
good
think it's a good
IMDb
film.
though. So people it's got 33% Rotten Tomato, but it's 6.8 on IMDb. So obviously, it's connected with people, should we say?
The other one then was released in 2001. It's a New Zealand film. It's called Stickmen, and again, it's just about three friends who join an underground pool tournament, and hilarity ensues when they're trying to.
I was trying to look it up, but instead it showed me 2015's animated Stick Man about a stick. So I'm just gonna have to believe you on that one and just assume.
Yeah, no, they're good though. Joe, I might go back and watch Stickmen later.
Fair enough. Can it be found, Stickmen?
Probably by me on my DVDs, but no, it's not for us. To be fair, these kind of films, you're probably going to find them for free on YouTube.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Which actually, you can't watch this for free on YouTube. You can't watch this free anyway. You need to pay for this on Amazon at the moment, so it's like $3.50. There is a full copy of The Hustler on YouTube you can watch, and it's a pretty decent copy. So if you fancy watching The Hustler, it is available on YouTube. As for next week, the year is 2014.
Fucking hell. I know. Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. Fucking nailed it. I was like, I had in my head, I was like, I've wanted to see this film for ages. And I was like, we could turn it into almost like an unofficial season, not a Tom Cruise specific season, a Tom Cruise playing a bellend season. Yeah. So it was just like, I know you have issues with Tom Cruise, blah, 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 but I was like, I genuinely adore this film. And I know we both have problems with the ending. That is the weakest part.
Yeah.
But I think for 18, 19 minutes, this is the greatest video game movie, which isn't based on video games.
So
I think it is top shelf blockbuster material.
So spoiler alert, I don't mind this movie. I think Emily Blunt is goodness, the supporting cast is goodness. But I really do have a lot of issues with that pasted on fucking magic ending, which we will get to.
Yeah. The ending, I need to revisit, and of course, I haven't watched this for a while, but there's got a problem. There's the manga, it's based on that. They made changes. They changed the fucking name. We could talk about the 3-4 different names of this film a million times, but ending aside, it's if you haven't seen this film and you fancy rewatching it ahead of the podcast, spoiler alert, I will be recommending this film. I really do think it's one of the best blockbusters of the last 10, 15 years.
What is the name of this film? Because IMDb have it as Edge of Tomorrow.
It is Edge of Tomorrow now. Because it was originally going to be called Every Time Is Kill. Then it changed to Live, Die, Repeat. Then it changed to Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, or it might be the other way around. And then eventually they just call it Edge of Tomorrow, which is a shame because of all the titles, that is the most generic and most forgettable. They should put it Every Time Is Kill. Or Live, Die, Repeat was cool, but they just fucking bungled it completely, which was a shame because this film, it wasn't a flop, but this film deserved to do better. And they keep talking about a sequel for good reason, because it's become, so as far as like, a relatively successful blockbuster can be, it's become something of a cult movie.
Yeah.
And I would love nothing more than to see a sequel to it. But it's like you said, largely perfect. The ending. The only film I have a similar relationship with to this film is Danny Boyle. Is it Danny Boyle, the director? Sunshine. I'm not sure if you ever watched
Danny Boyle.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
I remember watching it in the cinema, and for like 90 minutes, I was like, "This might be one of my favorite sci-fis of all time." And then I hated the ending. I hated the ending.
Think I need to go back and watch Sunshine. A lot of people
Me
lately
too.
randomly mentioned Sunshine. Dude,
It's a
I
great
turned
film.
it off.
Sunshine.
Yeah, not for any other reason. Like, I don't remember
Great
disliking
cast.
it. I
Yeah.
think I turned it off because I was tired, but I never went back and watched it. So it might be worth
Should we
a
save this for
revisit.
the podcast? Because I think like there's a great
Yeah,
cast in
could
there.
do.
It's a film I really like. I really wouldn't
Don't
mind.
get upset if I don't like it, though.
No. It's
Okay.
it's one of those films.
Yeah.
Like it's not like Edge of Tomorrow. I think is genuine. Like as a popcorn movie, is like close to being a masterpiece. Sans the slightly suspect ending. Sunshine. In fairness, I've not seen it for a long time, but I remember so specifically in the cinema for like a long time. When you just feel like you're watching something special, I'm like, man, I really, really enjoyed this film. And then the end didn't land. I feel like maybe if I revisit it, I feel different about the ending. Who fucking knows? But you go back and you start looking, it's like, man, the cast is stacked for that film. But yeah, we'll get to it at some point or another. But next week, Edge of Tomorrow, Live Die Repeat, Every Time Is Kill, whatever the fuck you want to call it. That's what we're covering next week.
Is this the first time since we've been doing the quiz that somebody has got it off the date?
Oh, first time. Yeah. I don't think anyone's. Yeah, I think this might be the first one. Wait, and it wasn't just the fact you just got it with such casual confidence. Just like, I just want to Live Die Repeat. Like you'd seen my notes.
I think what it is, because in my mind I was like, I've opened the door to Tom Cruise now for you, and I thought, oh, here we go.
In fairness, this feels like a good middle ground because I just couldn't start with the idea that of all the Tom Cruise films we did Legend. I'm just like, Legend's ass. What did we do Legend? I kind of want to do, just because I want an excuse to rewatch it, I kind of want to do Days of Thunder because I can't remember it. But I was just like, all right, if we do like Tom Cruise is a dick, then maybe you can get on board. But anyway, it'll be an interesting chat next week all the same.
I like that the Tom Cruise is a dick thing, but don't expect my next film to be another Tom Cruise pick.
No. Like I said,
we'll end this season at 2.
a 2-game series, as they call them in baseball. I keep referencing baseball, and I'm wearing a baseball jersey. I think I'm kind of obsessed. Anyway, this has been 1986's The Color of Money. Please do join us next week for 2014's Doug Law. I didn't get to mention the fact that it was directed by Doug Law. I mean, you got it too fucking quick. Edge of Tomorrow, Live Die Repeat, whatever the fuck it is. But if you do want to watch it, I think it's either on Sky or Netflix at the moment. It's on one of those. So give it a go. It's awesome. Anything else to add before we wrap this up?
No, mate, not today. I'm saving up everything. I'm not going to mention anything today because I'm just fucking under the what I will say, you're right, it's on Sky at the moment. So
awesome.
If you've got Sky sub,
well, if you have any interest, whether it be rewatching it, if you haven't seen it, seriously, watch that goddamn film. Okay, I've been Ian, he's been Rob, and you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.